Hey guys, this is New Sensei. This video is a follow-up to a question from the July 2017 Q&A, and the question revolved around bow design and the way we use bows. Now, some of you who are watching will be familiar with the historical or even fantasy style of bows, such as the simple wooden ones. And you might be wondering, how do we go from something which looks like this to something which looks like this? Historically speaking, bows are simply sticks which are strung using natural fibers. The actual development of variations of the bows, including shapes and cross sections and draw weight and so on, haven't changed that much. Now, in modern times, the materials and manufacturing have changed tremendously, which allows for more complex designs which are backed up by science and engineering and testing. And that's why you see a huge change in modern designs. So, going to the most basic of bows, this is an Sage longbow. This is obviously a new bow, but it's a primitive design. It's one of the simple bows. You can see the cross section like that. It's a simple bow which, when strung, is your longbow. Now, using this bow isn't particularly complex. You hold it here to pull it back and you shoot. There's nothing wrong with this bow, and really the technique used for this bow isn't that much different to the technique used in modern bows. So if there's nothing wrong with the design of a bow like this, why change? The first aspect I want to talk about is ergonomics. Ergonomics is designing something to make it more comfortable to use by a person. There are many things which work fine, but may not necessarily be comfortable to use, and that might lead to less efficiency, less effectiveness, or more strain for the user. And this applies to everything from office chairs to modern weapons. And bows aren't any different. If you look at this kind of bow, or similar long bows, the way these were held was by the grip here, and this is a very simple grip. There are of course hundreds of different variations, but basically it's a stick and you hold it like this. That's basically it. Again, nothing wrong with this. You hold here, you pull back, that's your bow. Now, why did this change? Well, firstly, the big part is it doesn't really give you much of a grip. Now, again, historically, in primitive times and historical times, you simply used what you had. You didn't really have to shape the piece of wood or the bow stave to match particular hands. A bow was a bow. Here's your bow, you use it, good luck. That's basically it. Whether you were a hunter or poacher or someone in an armed force, a bow was a bow. You wouldn't really see much variation in the way bows were designed between different people. So that's what you did. You held it here and you shot. In some ways this was good. It allowed you to be ambidextrous. You could hold it with one hand or the other hand, so whether you were shot left or right handed didn't matter. You had a bow which you can use, and this was basically a one size fits all. Of course, the problem with one size fits all is that it's seldom a perfect fit for any particular individual, and this is where we see a change in ergonomic design. The goal of an ergonomic grip is to make it more intuitive to hold correctly. Something like this doesn't give you much in terms of guidelines as to exactly how and where you are meant to put pressure on the bow. Most people grip it naturally like this. This can work, but it doesn't naturally give you the right alignment. But that's what you had to work with, a straight stick. You go from this design to something with more of a distinct shape, like a pistol grip, like this one. This bow is the Cobra, a typical youth recurve fiberglass bow, which happens to be ambidextrous, as most fiberglass youth bows are. And this shape are very different, from straight stick to molded pistol grip. This design allows you to naturally grasp and follow the contours of the bow a bit better. Whether you're left-handed or right-handed, this will naturally sit in a distinct throat, so you would know to hold it here like this. And that's the first and basic step of making a grip more ergonomic. This kind of grip still has problems. While it does have some reference points for your hand, it doesn't really stop you from torquing the bow or wrapping your fingers too tightly around it. So it still has a one-size-fits-all problem. So we go from this kind of grip to this kind of grip. This is of course the Samick Sage. And as with a lot of bows which are made in the modern time but are still traditional bows, it is made from traditional materials, but the shape has been refined to the point where it should fit the hand a lot more naturally. Some differences are the grip area is a lot larger, and the shape in terms of the size or thickness in the front and the back is more accommodating to a person's hand. And it should be worth noting that we start seeing handedness in bows. Bows are specifically made for right hand or left hand, because if you make something that's good for both hands, it won't exactly fit one better than the other. Whereas this is a right-handed bow, it will naturally fit my left hand if I'm shooting right-handed. And that's the idea of an ergonomic grip. So this kind of design with the bottom part a bit larger or fatter or thicker means that I can get a comfortable grip with the bottom of my thumb around this area here. My thumbs rest naturally across the thumb rest over here, and my other fingers will naturally sit on the other side of the bow. That is more of an ergonomic design, and this allows me to have a better connection and feeling with the bow when I draw it back, so I can get a proper alignment through my arms, and that is the result of a good grip. Here we have the bear takedown, and again we see that molded pistol grip kind of shape where the hand naturally slides into the throat. It follows the contours, the thumb rests here, the base of the thumb hits the curvature there, so it's pressured in the right place, and the fingers would wrap naturally around the front of the bow. And that's what a good design should do. It encourages you to place your hands correctly, like this. We go to the top end target recurves, in this case the W&W Inno Max, and you see the same sort of thing. It's a pistol grip shape. It is molded and shaped in a particular way where the person using it will naturally put the hand in the right position. This is very important for a target shooter because you want the exact same placement and pressure each time to ensure the most consistent results. So again, good design encourages the user to do it correctly without the same variations as a more general or generic design. The other decisive factor in bow design and bow design evolution is the ability to design a bow so that it can be center shot. Original primitive bows were designed symmetrically like this. That is your cross section, again like this. So there is no way for the arrow to be shot in the center line of the bow. The arrow actually points towards the side of the bow, and it must flex around the bow in order to hit straight. That's the origin of the archer's paradox. To shoot this way, the arrow is actually pointing that way. It flexes around and then it goes straight. It oscillates in flight. A lot of good slow motion videos, but the starting point of the arrow is offset because it must go around the bow before it oscillates towards the target. So these designs work, but you see a lot of left and right movement. It should be straight if it's spun correctly, but that is a design challenge. It can hinder someone's accuracy, especially again if you're thinking about a hunting application or a target sport application. In a modern bow design, we have what's called a window cut into the riser. This means that the arrow can be placed closer to the center line of the bow. Now this would not make it a perfect center shot bow. In fact, you can't really achieve that unless you're using certain kinds of compound bows. But for most bows, you get much closer to the center of the riser than a traditional primitive bow. And again, handedness comes in. So that means this bow is strictly a right-handed bow. It can't really be used left-handed because this side does not have a window cut out. You can't put the arrow here. You have to put it on this side. So again, we combine the idea of ergonomics with the right grip design for the right hand with a center shot or a close to center shot through a window cutout, and you have a much better interaction between the shooter, the arrow, and the bow. In this case, the arrow doesn't have to flex around the bow as much. It allows you to use different spined arrows, and it generally allows you to aim much closer on target instead of aiming off due to the archer's paradox. The intent and purpose of the bow may have an influence on the way it's shot. So something like the Bear Takedown has a very small window, so it can be shot straight, but many archers who shoot field or traditional will cant it slightly, which gives a bit more clearance and more vision on target. Compared to a target recurve riser, there's a very large window cutout. It gives you a lot more vision on target, and it's usually shot perfectly straight. Hence why you have this difference between a small window that is very shallow versus a large window that is quite deep. So if this is the epitome of accuracy and design, is this wrong? And the answer is no. You have to appreciate the evolution of design, again, based on the materials, the technology, and the understanding at the time. The idea of ergonomics and physics and science hasn't been around for that long. It's only been the last 200 years where these things have become really understood. And ergonomics in particular has been more of a study and a science in the last century, the last 50 years. A good correlation would be things like firearm designs. The original firearms were not ergonomic. Even going up to, say, World War I, the designs of rifles and pistols or machine guns weren't really designed for someone to use intuitively. There's more designed to be rugged and durable and to function correctly. In modern times, we start seeing more things like custom shaped pistol grips or forward hand grips. These things are more of a modern thing. That's why the idea of shaping a bow to fit someone's hand more naturally is something which didn't really exist 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, you had a stick, that was your weapon. Now we have something which is more customizable, and that is one of the big design differences. It doesn't mean this is wrong, it simply means that the people who make these kinds of bows actually couldn't make something that would fit the role of a modern target bow. That's the distinction. Likewise, the technique used isn't wrong. The techniques actually aren't that different. The style used for this bow isn't wholly different from this kind of bow. The designs are different and our understanding is different, again because of the understanding of science, biomechanics, physics, psychology, and so on. So to answer the question for the last Q&A, no, we haven't been doing it wrong. It's simply an evolution based on what we've come to understand in modern design. It's the same case for everything from sports equipment to weapons to firearms to bows and so on. These advances are only possible through improved understanding. You try to explain ergonomics to someone from the 15th century, they wouldn't have a clue. A bow is a bow, you pull it back, you shoot. In modern times, we have the idea and the ability to make bows which fit people much better. To summarize, the design of bows hasn't actually changed that much. The fundamentals are still the same, and the fundamental techniques in using a bow are still the same. What has changed is our understanding of how bows actually work, thanks to our improved understanding of the sciences, and especially in physics. The design and construction of bows in modern times have been mostly improved by the improvement in the quality of materials, as well as the ability and technology to create bows with better quality control. That is why a modern traditional bow will look like this. Hopefully that answers your question. This is New Sensei. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.